This is the type of bit I'm using with these screws. Don't know whether the recess shows up fairly well there, but this screw accommodates a Phillips screwdriver. It also accommodates the posi drive screwdriver. It also accommodates, of all things, a square drive. In fact, of the sort of regular off-the-shelf layout, of the off-the-shelf type bits, don't know whether that shows up in the recessing properly. Very hard to demonstrate this. But you can probably now recognise the square drive portion of the screw. It's quite impressive. But obviously, to fully occupy that space, they've made their own drill bit, their own screwdriver bit. So that is why I use this, and it holds the screw very, very firmly. That's the reason why I sell the screws I use. Okay. So if you need to buy these screws, and you also need to buy the bit, if you buy a box of the screws, which I'm not sure I've got up at the moment, if you buy a box of these screws, this screwdriver bit comes with the box. Otherwise you have to buy it separately. Okay, so that's holding quite firmly, and that is why I use these sorts of screws. They are a hardened screw, they've got a very sharp, clean cutting thread, they've got a smooth countersink, so they pull parts together. This bit drives very, very solidly. If you do slip, you often get a second chance, whereas if you use Phillips, for a start, the drive area of a typical Phillips screw is very, very small, whereas the recess in these screws is actually quite large. As a result, the heads are a little larger too. But in any case, these screws can be driven by any one of these three bits, as well as the specifically made one. So they are a pretty useful screw to be using, and yeah, my favourite screws are these ones for woodwork generally. Okay, but with this being so solid without places, you can use it as a guide for centering. You don't necessarily need to have another tool to produce the center, if you're careful, right? I'll demonstrate a method for establishing a center. Actually, I might even demonstrate it right here. Let's do that. So you can see a number of intersection points. If a screwdriver does not drive the bit accurately, let's grab the Phillips. It is difficult, and particularly on, say, laminate, it's difficult to get the screw to go exactly where you want it to, especially if your second hand is trying to hold another part like the draw runner. You might want to be placing the draw runner. So as you can see, I've got no mechanism of placing that screw with this bit. Okay. With the 4-in-1 holding it firmly, I can have the other hand free and place it as best I can. And there we have it, quite well centered. As you saw, that was quite easy. If you need to get the centering located very carefully, an alternative method is to use what's called a brad awl. It's got a tag on the end. Okay. So you can choose where the hole centering is going to be. And as you can see, that's quite accurate. So then our Phillips screwdriver can... Now a Phillips screwdriver, there's no trouble of course driving the screw in. So you can see the centering works quite well that way. A temptation is to use the drill bit, but drill bits have a problem in that they tend to jump around from where you start them. I do my best to start that, certainly one-handed. Well, you can see that's a little bit off. It's not bad, but it's not exactly where I wanted it to do. It's not exactly where I wanted it put. The screwdriver, the 4-in-1 screwdriver, gave me a better placement, as did the brad awl. So a drill is not an attractive tool for placing a screw accurately in where you want it placed. I'm using the brad awl to create a centering for the next hole. Might show better if I do that. Yes. Okay, so I'm doing the centering the best I can. And with that method I can use the Phillips screwdriver, drive it in, and you can see the torque clutch has done its job. It's important detail. Okay, but of course I'm actually using the 4-in-1 bit, so I can demonstrate the ease at which we can center the screws. Now this is a fair reach in, it's a little bit harder at this length. And as you can see, that went in beautifully.